For over a century, our image of the great lizards was defined by the giants of the land. We pictured the Tyrannosaurus rex thundering across floodplains, or the Diplodocus grazing on treetops. But in the early 1983, a single find in a quiet corner of England shattered these preconceptions. It revealed a creature that didn't follow the rules of the theropod world, a predator that had traded the forest for the riverbank and the open plains for the marshes. This is the story of Baryonyx walkeri, the heavy claw, a dinosaur that looked like a crocodile, hunted like a grizzly bear, and forced paleontologists to rewrite the history of the Cretaceous period. Today, we dive into the murky waters of the early Cretaceous to meet Britain's most iconic predator and explore the scientific tug-of-war that surrounds its legacy. Science often advances not through university expeditions, but through the curiosity of dedicated hobbyists. In January 1983, William Walker, a plumber and amateur fossil hunter, was exploring the Smokejack clay pit in Surrey, England. Among the heaps of Weldon clay, he spotted a rock that looked out of place.
Walker had no way of knowing he had just discovered the most significant British theropod in over 100 years. When he brought the find to the Natural History Museum in London, paleontologists Alan Cherrig and Angela Milner realized this wasn't just another fragment. After weeks of painstaking excavation in the mud and rain, they recovered nearly 70% of the skeleton. It was a sensation. The media dubbed it Claws, a nod to the blockbuster film Jaws, and the world was introduced to a dinosaur unlike any seen before. At first glance, Baryonyx looks like a biological puzzle. Measuring nearly 10 meters from snout to tail and weighing as much as 2 modern rhinos, it was a formidable presence. But its most striking feature was its head. Unlike the deep, crushing skulls of most large carnivores, Baryonyx possessed a long, low snout that mirrored a modern gharial.
At first glance, Baryonyx looks like a biological puzzle. Measuring nearly 10 meters from snout to tail and weighing as much as 2 modern rhinos, it was a formidable presence. But its most striking feature was its head. Unlike the deep, crushing skulls of most large carnivores, Baryonyx possessed a long, low snout that mirrored a modern gharial. At the very tip of its snout was a bulbous, rosette-shaped structure, packed with sensors. This wasn't for crushing bone, it was for precision. Inside its mouth sat 96 finely serrated teeth, far more than its land-dwelling cousins. These teeth were curved slightly backward, acting like a series of fish hooks, designed to ensure that once a slippery prey was caught, there was no escape. Then, of course, there is the name, Baryonyx, or heavy claw. On each thumb sat a 31-centimeter curved talon. In life, covered in a sheath of keratin, this claw would have been even longer and sharper. But why would a giant predator need a hook on its hand and a crocodile's snout? This question sparked one of the longest-running debates in paleontology. For decades, scientists argued over how Baryonyx lived. The initial theory was that it was a giant version of a heron. It was imagined standing motionless in the shallows of a delta, waiting for a flash of silver before striking with its lightning-fast neck. Others looked at those massive claws and saw a different animal, the grizzly bear. They proposed that Baryonyx would sit on the riverbank and use its thumb claws to gaff or swipe large fish out of the water, pinning them to the shore before devouring them. The debate took a darker turn when some suggested it was actually a specialized scavenger. They argued its long snout was designed to reach deep into the carcasses of large herbivores, much like a vulture, while its nostrils were set far back on the skull to allow it to breathe while its face was buried in a meal. The mystery was finally solved when researchers looked inside the dinosaur itself. Within the stomach region of the original specimen, they found 2 incredible clues. First, there were the acid-etched scales of Schisteria, a prehistoric fish. This was the first smoking gun evidence that a theropod dinosaur was a dedicated fish eater, or piscivore. But Baryonyx wasn't a picky eater. Alongside the fish scales were the bones of a young iguanodon. This revealed the true nature of the animal. It was an opportunist. While it spent most of its time patrolling the waterways for aquatic prey, it wouldn't hesitate to take down a land-dwelling dinosaur or scavenge a carcass if the opportunity arose. It was a master of two worlds, blending the habits of a crocodile with the power of a traditional raptor. To understand Baryonyx, we have to look at the world it inhabited 130 million years ago. Forget the rolling hills and rainy towns of modern England. In the early Cretaceous, the British Isles were a subtropical paradise of sprawling lagoons, dense fern forests, and massive river deltas. The Wealden environment was a high-stakes ecosystem. Baryonyx shared these waterways with giant crocodiles and turtles,
while the forests were home to herds of iguanodon and armored polacanthus. But Baryonyx wasn't the only predator in town. It lived alongside Neovenator, a new hunter that was more adapted for chasing down prey on dry land. By specializing in the river systems, Baryonyx carved out a niche that allowed it to avoid direct competition with these other giants, ensuring its survival for millions of years. Baryonyx was just the beginning. Its discovery opened the door to understanding a much larger and more terrifying family, the Spinosauridae. This group would eventually include the North African Suchomimus and the colossal Spinosaurus, the largest carnivorous dinosaur known to science. While Baryonyx was the pioneer of this lineage, its relatives would take its aquatic adaptations even further, eventually developing sailbacks and paddle-like tails. But it all traces back to the blueprint found in that Surrey clay pit. Baryonyx proved that the dinosaurian family tree was far more diverse and adaptable than we ever imagined. Even today, Baryonyx continues to surprise us. Recent studies of its bone density suggest it may have been a capable swimmer, able to submerge itself completely to chase prey, much like a modern hippo or crocodile. Every few years, a new discovery or a more advanced scan of its fossils adds another layer to its story. It remains a symbol of British paleontology, a reminder that some of the most extraordinary chapters of Earth's history are buried right beneath our feet. From a plumber's lucky find to a global scientific icon, Baryonyx stands as a testament to the strange and wonderful ways life adapted to the ancient world. The story of Baryonyx is more than just a tale of bones and teeth. It is a story of how science works, through debate, through discovery, and through the constant willingness to change our minds when new evidence emerges. It taught us that the world of the dinosaurs was not just a land of monsters, but a complex, thriving ecosystem, where every creature, no matter how strange, had its place. As we continue to unearth the secrets of the Cretaceous, one thing is certain: the heavy claw will always hold a special place in our understanding of the prehistoric past. The next time you stand by a quiet river or a muddy bank, remember that 130 million years ago, a very different kind of king ruled those waters.